Why a movie about Reagan? Why now?
Well, there hasn't been one about Reagan, really. And I think that although we didn't make it for an election year, for sure, we made this movie back in 2020 during COVID. And I think we were planning on 22 for it coming out. But in fact, I definitely did not want it to be coming out in an election year because the movie is not political. It's a biopic. But as it turns out, there's a lot of interest. And so what do I know? This is the way I look at it.
Now, you mentioned on Joe Rogan's podcast that Facebook, you had a little kerfluffle with them removing some materials for the film and
Right.
maybe accusing the film of trying to influence this November's election.
Right.
Then they said it was an automated mistake. Do you believe
Yeah.
social media platforms are trying to bury the film?
Ronald Reagan was hasn't been on the ballot for 40 years, I think it was the last time. So he's not really running for office. And my point about Facebook was that them banning or censoring materials from that is in itself an attempt to influence an election.
Are you hoping this has any influence on the election in favor of Trump?
This isn't about Trump. And it, like I said before, the movie's not political. The movie is about America as well as being about the life of Ronald Reagan and the principles and his views that he espoused. But, you know, it's his story, a life story. And, you know, we didn't make this for a political campaign.
When and how did you come out as a conservative in Hollywood?
Well, I wouldn't label myself as a conservative. I mean, if I had to put a label on myself, which I don't like to do, but I would call myself an independent. I voted both ways over the past 50 years that I've been voting, and pretty pretty equal actually. I believe in the pendulum of what our country needs at the time, you know, according to what I think. And I express that in the voting booth, and it has nothing to do with really a political party.
What were some highlights or consolations for you working on this movie?
I do have to admit that Reagan was my favorite president. You know, he was the guy who, along with Lech Walesa and Margaret Thatcher and the Pope, defeated communism and won the Cold War in the end, which made this world a much better place from, you know, being a child, going through those drills where we got under our desk because of imminent nuclear attack. Um, and visiting the Reagan Ranch up there, we shot at the Reagan Ranch, actually, which was the Western White House. The Western White House, you can really feel that man there. I found out he wasn't a rich man. The Reagan, the Western White House is 1,100 square feet, maybe. They had a king size bed, but it was two single beds that were zip tied together. And, you know, all those little things that added up to, I think that affected my performance in getting to know him.
Were there any challenges or desolations working on the movie?
Biggest challenge was just the fear of being judged, I guess. You know, Reagan is such a recognizable figure. Probably, you know, the same thoughts went through my head as Will Smith when he played Muhammad Ali. Reagan and Ali are two figures that are known throughout the world, instantly recognizable, how they sound and how they look and their mannerisms. And so it was a little bit of getting over that. I feel a responsibility, no matter who I'm playing, if they're real people, especially to play them from their point of view.
Why Reagan?
You know, he was a figure that loomed large in my life, and I think for a lot of Americans, when Reagan was president, it was like he was everybody's dad. You know, there were those who called him warmonger, or, you know, he was a third-rate actor who, you know, never, really made it. But he was also everybody's dad, and that meant, for better or worse, you either really admired your dad or you rebelled against your dad. And those kinds of feelings about him have still have hung around, I think, with people. And that's what makes him interesting.
And our newspaper has a long history with President Reagan. We were the first paper he opened up at the White House each day. We have a lot of former Reagan administration people who write columns for us, subscribe to the paper. What are your hopes that people take away from the movie if they have a good memory of Reagan, or even if they're coming new to the film?
First off, I hope they're entertained. That's what movies are for. And I want them to feel things. That's why I go to movies. And more than seeing things is to feel things. And those that were born before 1985, they can be able to kind of get a glimpse and remember how great this country used to be. And people after 1985, they be able to see what it used to be like and how great this country still can be if we learn to get along and start talking to each other again. Disagree on 30% of something, that doesn't make us a 30% enemy. It makes us a 70% friend, quoting Ronald Reagan.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Dennis.
Thank you.